Today on Real Talk with Coach Morton and friends, have a really a legend that's accomplished a lot in our sport. He's got 51, count them, 51 cross country and track and field SWAC conference championships between, like I said, cross country, men's and women's cross country and track and field. 38 as the head coach of Alabama State. Ritchie Beenie, how you doing, sir?
Doing well today, and yourself?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Making it and just trying to stay safe, just like everybody else.
I understand that.
That's about it, man. But let's get right into it. You accomplished a lot, but let's start at the beginning. How did you get into coaching?
My journey into coaching is a path probably uniquely taken. I shared a while back about my journey into coaching. I'm one of those unique people. I did track in high school. I was pretty good middle distance runner, and I could long jump. And some things happened my senior year in high school where my brother was involved in a accident on his way back to school at Jackson State University. And I ended up having to take care of my younger brother and sister for some years. Instead of going off to college, I took a music scholarship closer to home and gave up running until my senior year in college. And then I got back into running, and my college coach just really took me on her wing. Alicia Shear Gaston at Alcorn at the time when I transferred there. And so she got me back into track and field. And then I went out and did my internship because my undergrad was elementary education. And doing my internship, I realized I didn't want to teach small children. So I told her that, and she said, well, do you want to go into coaching? I said, yes. So she put me in touch with Coach Horace Crump, which was the head coach at the time at Alabama State University. He gave me a graduate assistantship. Coach Shields gave me this really thick book of all the events in track and field. I followed her around. Even though I was a student athlete, I also served kind of like a student coach under her my senior year, and learned as much as I could under her, and transferred over to Alabama State for graduate school as a GA. And that was in 1997. And that's how my coaching career took off as a GA here at Alabama State.
Wow. So that's unique. I mean, first of all, everything about that is unique and different, saying you're a distance runner and long jumper. You don't find that too often.
No, you don't.
So what have been some other mentors or just people that influenced you along the way?
Man, when I say I've had over the years numerous mentors, people who didn't even know they was mentors to me. But I'll definitely say, as I mentioned, Coach Alicia Shear Gaston, which was the head coach at at Alcorn at the time. Coach Horace Crump, which was my first boss and my really only boss that I had as a graduate assistant coach prior to becoming head coach. He taught me so much about life. Coach Johnny Thompson at Southern University, legendary coach. Man, I watched him. Coach Lonnie Green, Coach Stan Naruski, and then it's countless other, Coach Holloway, just some of the advice I've been able to get from him over the years. And then just so many other legendary coaches where I've watched them from afar and just, looked at the things that they did, how they worked with their athletes. I was one of those young coaches where if you was a coach, you were successful. I would sit around in the stands and just watch everything that coach would do, how they talk to the team. I would even watch coaches unload the bus, what they would do with their athletes as they unload the bus, their warm-ups. And, there's some of the other things we'll get into maybe later on in the interview. Coach LaBelle at Grambling, he was one of those successful coaches that I watched. The coaches at Prairie View, Coach Hoover, all of those guys, Coach Duncan at Texas Southern. These are coaches that I watched over the years, and so many different coaches. Coach Harvey Glance is a person that I looked up to early on in my career, and then I watched some of the things that he were able to do in the track and field world. So when I say there's so many mentors, and then there's mentors, like I say, in other sports, football coaches from in other different sports. If you were successful, either either sport, I will watch you. But people don't even realize it. I watched a lot of interviews that Bobby Bowden did when his time at Florida State, and even some of like coaches like Jimbo Fisher, some of the other head coaches in SEC school that coaches football, even Coach Saban. I listened to their different documentaries and things like that. Muhammad Ali, I read his book. He was a mentor from afar, where I read How Was He Successful. I read Shaquille O'Neal book. So many countless other books I've read to how people got to be successful. And that's kind of where I am today.
And I think that says a lot about how bad you wanted it to watch them, how they unload the bus and get everybody, taught that. What are they doing when they're doing something as simple as getting off the bus? I mean, I think there's a lot to be said, just not going after the X's and O's, but the communication skills of these coaches is, we all know that's huge, especially in this day and age, with social media and, kids will videotape you talking or whatever. So I think that says a lot, just going after that kind of stuff. So we talked about, where you went to school. What has your coaching education been like? Has it been more formal or learn by doing or a mixture?
Well, my coaching education has come from all over the place. You have your traditional certifications that you go out and get. Of course, early on in my career, man, it was so long ago when I first did my level 1. I mean, it had to be around 1998, whatever year it was down. I did it down at University of Florida. And so much has changed since then. It's probably need to go back and redo it. It's been so long ago because a lot of the science and all of those things has changed. Even the strength and conditioning, I went to that and took training in that. But, I'm an old school type person. Most people know me. I'm from Mississippi. I'm one of those guys. I'm going to go out and I'm going to learn by getting my hands dirty, by getting out there, trial and error, and watching the people who've done it before me and during my time, from past and present, how they do things. Books are great. Workshops are great. Certifications are straight. But if you don't know how to deal with young people, if you can't, if you're a Southerner or you're old country boy, and you take your car to your uncle and need to get it fixed, soon as you pull up, he let the hood up, he started just rambling off stuff because he can see the way the car running, maybe the way that you started the engine up, or he'll drive it down the street. I'm one of those coaches where I literally watch athletes when they warm up, when they train. But how did I get to that point? Even as we progress as a team, those coaches that I named, I watched everything that they did. If they do something, I'll walk over to them and ask them, so why are you doing this? Or if a team is at NCAA regional, we might have just got smoked and got sent home early, but I'm still there walking around, walking by people's camps, watching out what they're doing, how many athletic trainers they had. I'm listening to the coaching instructions. If a person is at the hurdles, giving hurdle instructions, if they're giving sprint instructions, all of these things I want to know. If I'm at a regular season meeting, a team really runs well, I'm going to go to that coach and say, hey, how did you get them to that point? And I keep a notebook with me at all time, and I jot things down. I learned things from nutrition to strength and conditioning to hydration to psychological training. A lot of my psychological and mind training comes from coaches from other sports, where I listen to their documentaries, or I love listening to coaches motivate their team right before they go out on the field or out onto the volleyball court and those things like that. So my training is a broad range. And so I take that stuff and I read the things that people publish and I make it fit into what works best for Alabama State, not University A or B.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I always say there's a science, the books and stuff, but there's also an art to coaching. Mm-hmm. And like you said, just knowing what's right for your program. And like you said, that that mechanic that you, cause my granddad he's got a shop, and my father, my late father, and his brothers would all use the shop, but they can hear something in a car, and it's like, oh, they'll tell me what it is and come bring it on over here to the shop, but there was an art to it. They didn't have the formal education or anything. They just done it so much. And, hopefully I feel myself getting there, but hopefully I continue to get better. I can get to that point where I can just, be able to see certain stuff that I can't see right now. Like I said, I just think that's the art part of it.
And it took a lot of what I call the formal education to understand those things. Again, my undergrad major was elementary education.
Mm-hmm.
It was very useful in team management and things like that. But once I actually got my master's in health and physical education, some of those classes like motor learning, physiology of exercise, a lot of those other classes, anatomy, physiology, these classes helped me to understand the body, even the sports psychology behind it. One of the greatest training I was able to receive was to be able to train my mind to take quick pictures as I see things happen.
Wow.
And be able to go back and put things together and fix it. So when I'm at practice, my mind is taking a lot of quick pictures of things. And then I come back to the office, or I may be able to make a quick assessment right there in practice. I give you an example of a young lady. She was continuously having some hamstring issues. And I was like, some of the things I just couldn't figure out. So I just kept taking mental pictures of her one day. And it was something I saw during the warm-up where her knee kept going inside, just on a simple A skip. And so I said, once my mind took that frame of that picture, I let it stay there. And I made a mental note, and I started watching when she would get tired, if that knee would take that same placement. So I had her to talk to my trainer. I said, I think when she's getting fatigued, she's overstressing that hamstring. And so I physically started getting her aligned. Of course, we had to get her some other alignments, things done by our sports performance person, but some of the things I could do in her warm-up to make those adjustments as well. But if I never slowed my mind down to be able to take those quick snapshots, to be able to remember it, actually when she started practicing to the point to where she became fatigued, what I saw, I said, you know what, this may be the issue here. And that's just a quick snippet of some of the things that I can be able to mentally do on and off the track.
What do you think you attribute that attribute to be able to do that? What would you attribute that to?
It was some of the things that I learned even in class, even through motor learning, and some of the book terms I don't even remember. I just remember some of the things that I learned. Imagine this: you have almost every person have that gift if they're an athlete. But you think back when you was an athlete, either before or after the competition, you can see yourself during your events. If you did good, you did bad, even that it might have been through a dream or a visualization. Let's say if you were a long jumper, seeing yourself going down the runway, hitting those steps as you mentally prepare yourself the night before in the bed, you can actually feel yourself doing it mentally. Well, I took those attributes and I put it into a coach's mindset. Even though I'm not the athlete, I got to be able to see you, what the expected goal is, what the expected target is, the time, and what physical things need to be done to accomplish that. And if something is not lining up or either enhancing it or keeping it the same or minimizing it, I need to be able to figure that by watching it. What's good is being able to take that now, if you video that or film that practice session or film that competition, and now you put all those thoughts together and you start making race modification, practice modifications, mental modifications. Even I can look at athletes and tell in the race where they mentally fall apart. Facial expression, body language is a true indication of true communication.
Mhm.
And I am a firm believer in body language and what the body tells me, from my athletes all the way down to my wife and my kids and everything else.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Um, so with all that going on, what events are you coaching year to year? Because I know you got a distance background, but it's a lot of knowledge there. Are you just coaching distance, or are you dibbling dabbling in some other events, or?
Man, I have coached a little bit of everything over my coaching tenure. Now I coach, I can coach, I normally coach anywhere from 200 all the way up to the 10K. However, for a stint there, I coached the pole vault. And I was pretty successful in coaching pole vaulters. That's probably was the event that I dislike coaching the most. I probably needed to see the trainer after every practice or competition, because especially during competition, it seemed like every time they were balling, I was physically standing there doing the ball with them, bending and turning and all of this stuff. So you know how they get, man. And again, if you've ever watched jump coaches, man, you'll see them doing all kind of crazy moves while the kids are jumping. So I was that guy when it came to the pole vault. Early on in my coaching career, I did coach hurdles. I was decent at it. Some of the things that I did in hurdles back then, if I was to coach hurdles again now, I definitely would do a lot of things different, because in my younger years of coaching, I did a lot of the old school hurdle drills. I mean, we spent a lot of time just going over just basic hurdle drills. And now it's about speed between the hurdles, developing power, developing speed,
Mhm.
and all of those things. So it's a lot of things I would change if I went back to the hurdles. During the years when Alabama State really got on the map at the NCAA level, I was coaching a good majority of those kids when it came down to 200-meter runners, quarter milers, and that's my bread and my butter. From the 4.8 up to the 1,500, that's what I love to do. Been pretty successful with coaching 200-meter runners. Some of the things when it come down to the fine tuning of blocks and things like that, I definitely rely on my sprint coach or other coaches to enhance what it is. And I'm one of those people, if I need to call you and say, hey man, take a look at this. What do I need to readjust on this block setting? The actual setting up of the workouts and going from there, I pretty much got so many varieties of things that we can do based off the personnel that I have for that year.
Gotcha. So you've coached a lot of events. Have you seen any have you seen any carryover, anything that you learned in one event that you can use in the other event?
Absolutely. I think the speed concept more now in my 800 and 1,500-meter development. It has definitely evolved over time. There's two ways that I look at it. You got your 4.8, 8.15, and even we've been able to be successful where I've had, and this is a fact, where I've had a quarter miler with a 2.4 that could go 23 low, 18 in cross country, could run 52 low, 51 split, and could run you a decent 800. I've had an 800-meter runner that comes in as a 217 out of high school, 56, and running 206, right at close to 1805, 1815 in cross country, and can go, I think, in the 1500, could run, a decent maybe a pretty good low 34, something like that, even in the 1500.
Wow.
Yeah, so the range was big, but these was young ladies and young men even that I had that were truly dedicated and understanding, and everything was more of a speed-based training. We weren't running crazy miles. I had to learn real quick not to leave my workouts in practice, but it was a speed concept, because people were like, how does this girl go run cross country and still able to sprint when track come around? Well, she did all the preseason type training, but even with some of the things that we did, I was like, okay, on these 2 days, you'll do your run, but here's how fast I want you to do the run. and everything else was preseason training. But again, you got to have a student athlete that got that mental mindset to say, hey, my coach is crazy, but I'm going to be crazy with him.
Yeah.
And so, especially if it's a young lady, I said, listen, you're talking about 3.1 miles. If you're a real athlete, I don't care who you are, some type of conditioning, you should be able to go out there if you're going to be able to perform at this level. And we're talking about young ladies and young men that come in that may not probably, most of them haven't even been recruited by many people. So now we got to spend the first year getting you into a Division I type mindset to be prepared to compete at an NCAA regional or national level. But speed training is one of those things that I learned years ago, and then I incorporated one of my strongest minded assistant coaches I ever had. Awesome. Everybody knows him, Coach Ryan. I also learned a lot from him about the speed-based training and power-based. So I started introducing some power-based carefully to my middle distance group, but we got into the hurdle hops, into the bounding, and some of that power-based stuff and the technique stuff for them to be able to, as 800-meter runners, to be able to be more speed efficient in racing and practicing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So now, obviously, that sounds like one progression that you've made with your training over time. Were there any other kind of ways that your training evolved over time?
Yes. And I'm one of those people, again, I'm kind of, I use a lot of things that I learned by watching other coaches and things like that. But the involvement is understanding my personnel. One practice model doesn't fit everybody. And I'm one of those people, yes, I know all the training segments and people got these fancy ways of doing things, and it's awesome. None of that makes sense to me until you actually get your personnel to that level. And a lot of times, even though it's a football term, I would say I cover a lot of the basic X's and O's first. And that was one of those things that evolved to diagram workouts for each specific athlete based off of where they are. Some of the mistakes I made early in my career, I'll write the workout up and I go out there and I give everybody the workout. And some will do well, some don't, some will progress, some won't. And I said, okay, let me look at where this person is. And once I start switching up, some kids got offended because they're like, well, why are you not giving me my time? Why this person not doing this? I give you an example, and my student athletes understand it a lot better now than they ever did because I make sure I explain myself. And a lot of people have attitude, I don't have to explain myself. But young people nowadays, you have to explain why are you doing it and what's the reason behind it. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you have no idea, they will call you out on it. So I do a little bit more, and I don't call it explaining, I call it teaching. I teach first, coach second. I want you to understand why we're doing it. But I give you an example. I have one young lady this year, and I told the whole group, I said, listen, guys, y'all got to understand, her training will not look like you got. It's going to look like she's getting it easy. I said, but by the time the championship comes around, indoor championship comes around for conference, she'll be ready. And she may have trained in running maybe twice a week. Everything else was alternative training. Wheel runner, a lot of biking, a lot of pool, whatever it was, I kept her off her legs. She outperformed almost everybody on the team. Wow. And she scored like 20 something, 25, 26 points for the team at the championship and was running twice a week. Now her training was intense. She was training at least twice a day, almost every day. But when I gave her a day off, she had a full day off. I didn't want to see her. But that's how my training has evolved. Everybody does not look like everybody else is training.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to develop, and it takes a little bit of time, especially when you're talking about a 400-meter runner, 800-meter runner, because one shoe doesn't fit all sides. And it gets interesting at times. But that's one of the biggest things I evolved over time, is being able to write specific workouts for specific kids. Sometimes I can get away having the whole group do the same thing, but a lot of times it's different.
Gotcha. That, I mean, hopefully kids should appreciate that, just the individuality of the program, and not being cookie cutter and just giving everybody the same thing. So I think a lot of kids, when you explain it to them, it's kind of like, okay, he's going to really be paying me attention and giving me what I need, as opposed to just throwing something out and hoping it works for me,
Mm-hmm.
Now, we talked about championships earlier. Since you've been a part of that program as an assistant and head coach, 51 championships, 38 as head coach. Talk to listeners about the mindset each year, going into the year, knowing teams are gunning for you. How does your mind work as somebody who's, in other words, you've climbed to the top of the mountain, and now you're sitting on top trying to maintain that position? What does your mindset work like? How do you not get complacent?
I forget about the previous ones. Track and field, as soon as cross country over with, then you have indoor, then you have outdoor, then you have regionals, then you got USAs, you got junior nationals, you got all these different things that you have to prepare for. You got budgets, and then also I teach classes. I got a wife, I got a kid, so it's I don't have time to bask in what just happened. I thank God for it, but then hey, I think Coach Saban at Alabama was like, hey, 24 hours, maybe 48, you enjoy it. Now you got to go figure out what you're gonna do next. What did you do wrong? And it's interesting because I'm a numbers person. I like looking at the numbers. Once we're normally done with a championship, I'm on the bus the entire ride, or coming back, however we're traveling. If I'm not driving, I'm going through the numbers. Where we scored at, where we didn't score at, what the other people did. I'm looking at other conferences, measuring up and say, hey, how do we get ourselves for regionals? If we're going to go to nationals? So I don't really have that time to kind of just bask in it. And it's just continue to do what you got to do, because I want as many young men and young women to experience something special. I've been truly blessed. You see these trophies behind me. These trophies are not for me. These are for the young men and young women who are able to win championships. And when they come by, when Ritchie Beenie is long gone and somebody else is here, they can bring their family and they can bring their kids in. It's like, hey, this was the year that I won. Mm. This is what it's for. I want them to be able to experience that. And so it's my job to do everything in my power to equip these young men and young women to be able to do that. Not only just myself, I want to be able to have my coaches recruited by other programs to be head coaches, assistant coaches. This here's a stop. I'm not one of those selfish coaches. I hate to lose any of my coaches, but at some point, we understand that there's only a few programs in this business that really pay assistant coaches, especially at a mid-major. Yeah. So I can't be selfish. I want them to have financial growth as well. I want them to have financial prosperity. That's important to me. Yeah. So that's why I can't be complacent. That's why I'm going to push them as far as I can. I'm a pretty laid-back guy, but most people that work with me, been around me, they know what my expectation is. I don't micromanage, but they know what I want. Mm-hmm. And if it's not happening, we're going to have some Jesus meetings.
So now, the recruiting, you just mentioned that word. What's your strategy during the recruiting process? I mean, you won so much. So it's got to be, what are you doing during the recruiting process? What are you thinking about? How's your mind working?
We're thinking about NCAA level and where we can get young men and young women to NCAA regionals, nationals, and conference. We used to be more of a conference team, but years ago we started looking at, okay, what do we need to do? I asked administration during the time. They was like, okay, coach, you won multiple conference championship. What are you going to do when you get to the NCAA? So I said, hey, this is the way recruiting has to change. This is what we need to be able to do. We don't have the recruiting budget that other schools have. Thank God for the internet that you can do, but you really need to go see young people. It's people think the recruiting is easy, and we getting athletes here and there, and just most of the young people, we're taking chances. You know, I think right now the recruiting field is closer to being on the same level now than it ever did with COVID-19 because nobody.
Mm-hmm.
We just going off of what we remember from 2019 that they did, because there was most schools didn't have a spring track and field program. If they were fortunate to run indoor, you was able to do that, but everything is basically based off everything from there. So what we try to do in recruiting is market ourselves as much as we can based off the success that we had. And it's not easy. I will be lying to you say that it's easy. We have to really have some really good conversations with young people to say, hey, this is why you should come here. Mm-hmm. And if we can get you here on campus, then we feel like we got a great shot at signing young people. So recruiting goes across the board in every area, every event, definitely in our sprints and 800 and middle distance, 400 and mid sprints and all those things. So, you know, one season doesn't fit all. We recruit based off of what we need to replace. So, and we got different areas that we know are hot spots for recruiting, and we have to get in there and bang, man. There's some tremendous coaches out there now that we got to grind against.
Yeah. Well, and talk about tremendous coaches and programs. SWAC, they just added FAMU and Bethune. How do you feel about the addition of these teams, these newer schools coming in to the conference?
I'm excited about it, man. My frat brother Coop, down at Bethune, man, first of all, Coop is an amazing person. Yeah. You know, Coop is amazing. And then you got Tyree, to me, is one of the best jump coaches that's out there.
Yes.
And what he do year in and year out. And Nadia, that's over at FAMU, she was in the conference when she was coaching at Valley. So as soon as FAMU got in, I probably was one of the first people she texted. She said, and her exact words, like, I'm back like I never left. So, you know, that I got 2 more headaches, but I welcome it. I welcome it. Is it going to be harder to win a championship? And listen, at the end of the day, somebody else going to win one day. I know that. That's just the name of the game. But our goal is not to make it easy. Their job is to make it harder. And whoever that may be when that time comes, I'm going to be the first person in line to shake their hand. So I welcome them. I welcome the competition. And I want us, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, to become the premier HBCU conference. I want us to become one of the premier mid-major conferences. We already know what the MEAC was able to do. We got legitimate schools coming in. Mm-hmm. So I hate to see some of the things that's happening in the MEAC, but it's our goal as a conference, and we've been talking to coaches already what we need to do to make things better for our conference. We want to go to these different meets and at regular season meet and go to NCAAs, and I want people to understand, like, man, the SWAC is where it's at.
Yeah.
So I expect some good things to come, and you know what type of talent down there that's in Florida, and then you got You got a mastermind now, Eric Jenkins down there at South Florida. Man, when I say that's probably one of the smartest, quietest, flying under the radar brother that's out there in the coaching business. He's not a loud in your face type guy, but I know people in this business, they respect his name, they respect what he do as a coach. So recruiting in Florida is going to be interesting. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Heard nothing but good things about Coach Jenkins. So any advice for young coaches trying to get better in this profession?
Be a sponge. Be a sponge. Soak up as much knowledge as possible. Talk to people. Let your next move be your best move. I think some of the biggest mistakes that young coaches make. Yes, I think you should love what you do. You should cherish your profession, but also you have to have a professional plan and a financial plan when you go into this business. It's not and there's very few coaches that get it right away or get it. It takes years to get to a certain type of pay in this business. You need a financial plan when you're coming in. That's one of the things I talk to young coaches about: understanding finance, understanding what's your short-term and long-term goal. We can't coach forever, but you got to have a retirement plan in place. You got to be able to understand when you're at a school, you're putting back, you're finding ways to invest. Sit down and talk with coaches before they hire you. What's your short-term, long-term goal for working with that coach, and be transparent and say, hey, this is my 3, 2, 5-year plan, and financially, this is where I'm trying to be. And be transparent with that coach. I think the head coaches should be transparent with the coaches that they're hiring, because we see a lot of young coaches get into this business and get stuck professionally and financially. Yep. You should be the author of your own fate when it comes down to, besides, your faith in your spirituality. So I had some good mentors to say, hey, they looked out for me when it came down to certain things. I had people that pulled me under their wings and say, hey, this is what you need to ask for when you go in, or this is where you need to place some things aside. This is how you take your checks that you're making and you put aside as you move forward. And be respectful. And like I say, be a sponge. Learn as much as you can learn from the ones that's been doing it for years down to the ones who just got started. Just learn everything you can learn. And care about the people. If young people know that you care, you don't have to sell yourself. If you care, they're going to perform. If you know what you're doing, they're going to perform. And you don't have to do a bunch of convincing, because people are going to see that. And that's some of the best advice I probably could give at this point.
That's great advice, especially making sure you got a retirement and you're putting away. Because like you said, this is not, some are very fortunate to be in positions where they get those huge paychecks. And I think that, the majority, though, we're making a living. But, when you first get in, like I said, be a sponge. And I think being respectful goes a long way. So last question, what is the future of Alabama State? I mean, you've done so much in the past. What does the future look like moving forward for your cross country and track program?
Okay. The future, are you hearing me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of faded that for a second. The future is, one, to get through this whole COVID-19. It's really hard to plan a whole lot for anything. This is one of the silent things that we really don't have no control over. The program as a whole, prepare for the new additions of the team. Administratively, we have some serious things that we have to look at as a university if we intend for this program to go at the level that it's going to go. There's going to have to be some serious financial commitments. Anything that's in life worth having, at some point there have to be some serious financial investments. That's into you as a coach, even to your own life. Mm-hmm. When you look at your future, you have to understand if you're going to be better, there's some investment. Spiritually, mentally, physically, it's the same thing for this program. We got to go back and look at everything that we're doing, everything that we've done, and where we're trying to go. And I'm actually working on a game plan now. I'm going to present it to my university because the rate that we've been able to do things, I guarantee you, not only just teams in our conference, there's other program mid-majors and maybe even some, well, I doubt Power 5, but some mid-majors, they say, hey, this is what Alabama State was able to do with less or with what they had, and they've able to match that with coaching staff, financial investment, facilities, and all of that to bring themselves up to the same level, if greater. Now we have to go back and look at what we did, and it's just like you asked how I evolved to continue to be successful. The university will need to evolve in order to enhance and move this program. You don't become NCAA contenders or nationally ranked doing things the same way you did it 5 and 6 years ago. You can't take $2 and think you're going to be able to have a Mercedes-Benz. That's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some work, and it's going to take some financial investment. And that's what the future looks like. I know, and my staff know where we want to go. It's about the commitment of the university, and you as a coach, you know that.
Yeah.
And it all depends on where the university want to commit to go there, because this sport's not going to get any easier. And so
yep.
I'm up for the challenge, and I got some short-term, long-term goals, and I'll stay prayed up. And while we go through this COVID, I'm going to just do what I got to do to make sure my family is good, my coaches is good, and my kids are good. Get kids back in shape and all that other stuff and all this fancy track talk and all that stuff. And it's on down the list right now. My family and my kids and my coaches' well-being is my top priority, and protecting the interest of the sport, because too many programs are being canceled. So I'm doing everything in my power to protect the sport, not only just mine, but all the sports in our conference, from cross country to indoor to outdoor. So if there's a meeting or something I can be in on to say, hey, this is why it's important to keep these. Hey, I'm all.
Nice. Anything else you want to add for the sake of the track and field world?
Hey man, I appreciate you having me on. If you don't have anything, if you have anything else, if you want to shoot from the hip with a question, hey, I'm here. I'm all yours. So,
man, I appreciate you doing this. I hope I see you during the year. Hopefully we have a season, and good luck on your season. Like I said, good luck on, praying for everybody actually to just stay safe, keep your family safe, like I said, and I just wish you the best and thank you again.
I appreciate you having, man. Much success to you and to all the coaches out there listening. God bless you all and take care.
All right, brother. You have a good day.
You too, man.